Well, okay, everybody, let's see. Yep, Mr. Producer did push the live button. It's a shame that I actually have to check that these days. But you know what? Hey, it's okay. It's okay. We were starting the show the other day or last week, and I was just going on, and then I realized, we haven't pushed the live button. But Mr. Producer, he's right on top of that. We're good to go today. We're good to go. All right, everybody. Hello, welcome. Oh, look, I appreciate y'all being here. Yeah, I'm checking something here real quick and trying to find out where this stuff is, where that stuff is, where this stuff is, and hopefully you're having a good day. I'm trying to find this thing, but there we go. I'll tell you what, crazy. All right, everybody. Yep. Welcome. Let's see. Yeah. So, guys, I'm Bishop Long. I appreciate you being here. Happy Friday to you, and Merry Christmas to you. Well, Thomas, that's a good question. Now, does it mention that Jesus had brothers and sisters? Well, here's the dealio. So people say that, James was the brother of Jesus. Well, that's just simply not true. And I'll answer the question for you because technically, when you look at the translation, it actually means, I think, cousin. I don't believe, no, I don't believe he did because number one, Josephus, who is a first century historian writer, writes nothing about any siblings that Jesus had. Nothing. Thank you, Donna. Thank you very much. And he would have. Now, Flavius Josephus was he was a Jewish historian writer. There's nothing at all in any of the historical documents from non-Christian historical writers that indicate that Jesus had siblings, and there would have been. So because they were very accurate as far as history and lineage was incredibly important, but there's nothing. So I don't believe so based on the history and the historical documents that we have from non-Christian historical writers. There's just nothing there. There's nothing there. So therefore, I think when we start, it's speculation when people say, but he did. That's speculation. I look at what are the facts. Do we have historical documents showing that Jesus? No, we do not. So therefore, I'm not going to assume that he would. And also remember when Jesus was on the cross, he told Mary, and he was speaking to John, and he's saying to John, this is your son, and this is your mother. And so Jesus would have done that actually to his brother. So if Jesus had a sibling, then the brother automatically would have taken Mary into his home. That was Jewish custom that was required. In this case, he goes to John, who was not related to Jesus at all, and he tells John, this is your mother, and this is your son. So from that perspective, from a theological perspective and a historical perspective, I just simply don't see it. I don't see it. Okay, everybody. So good question. I appreciate the question, guys. So tonight is Paranormal Friday night. Only one night a week, we dedicate 2 hours to the paranormal. One night a week. So for the hater gators who are always saying, oh, you're always talking about the paranormal. Actually, we're not. Going on my TikTok channel, and you'll see 99% of it is biblical. It is theology. Very rarely. I do talk about some paranormal, but it's rare. But I do have them only one night a week, and that's Friday night. That's it. The other nights, we dedicate to theology and the biblical studies. All right? So happy Friday to you guys. I tell you what, hopefully you had one. But before we go into the presentation, Mr. Producer saying, come on, Bishop Long, say it. Roll that footage.
Fans of Bishop James Long, the renowned exorcist and paranormal expert on KGRA Digital Broadcasting. Now you can carry his wisdom with you. Our Bishop James Long collection features blessed apparel such as St. Benedict hats and tees, as well as home items to protect and inspire. Elevate your spiritual journey. Go to kgradb.com/shop and discover the Bishop James Long merch today.
Website in there, if you would, please, in the chat. I would appreciate that very, very much. Thank you very, very much for doing that. And so make sure you guys go there. By the way, 100% of the profits that would go to me from these merchandise, we're donating it to the MKS Kids Foundation, an orphanage in Uganda that we're partnering with. And by the way, don't forget, there are two books that you can go to my site. And that's Bishop James Long. Follow that up with the .com. And if you scroll on down yonder, you're going to see this book here that is brand new. It is my Paranormal Investigating Training Manual. There it is. Paranormal Investigators Training Manual, 260 pages. A lot of work went into this. But if you go to my site, moderators, if you could put that in there, if you go to my site, scroll down and you will see the two books. There, by the way, the Seven Archangels book is up there too. I'm telling you this for the hater gators out there saying, fraud, Mr. Voice. I knew it. See, I'm so smart. These people, because I know them very well. Well, Mr. Voice, 100% of the profits is going to the orphanage from these books. So what are you doing to help the orphanage? Oh, that's right. You're coming in and being rude and disrespectful. Yeah. Anyway. So for the hater gators out there who's saying fraud, 100% of the profits, every penny that I would make from my books, because it's my work, which every author who writes a book has every right to receive the dividends that come with it. But 100% of it, I'm donating to the MKS Kids Foundation. So for the hater gators out, what are you doing besides trolling? Pity. What a sucky life. I mean, that's kind of the day after Christmas. That's kind of funny. The day after Christmas, you're trolling clergy, who a community that supports the MKS Kids Foundation and orphanage, and you're trolling. Boy, did you not get anything for Christmas? Did you get coal? Is that why you're upset? It probably is. Mr. Producer understands. Okay. And of course, if you want to go to the church's site, you can certainly do so as well. USOCC, follow that up with the .org. All right. So that's what it is. Now, here's the deal. Now, of course, this is not going to last long. But for those of you who are on TikTok, let me make this very, very, very serious to you and point blank. I would rather keep the chat open to everyone. That's my preference. But if you can't just act like normal human beings, which the majority of you are, then I'm going to put subscriber chat on. And I won't give it a second thought at all. It's not going to affect me in any way, shape, form, or fashion. I would rather have chat open for everybody. That's my preference. But what I'm not going to allow is for people to come in here and be very disrespectful and hateful, judgmental, and condescending. We don't put up with that here. We're not a Jerry Springer community. We don't applaud that type of behavior. As a matter of fact, we completely, fully reject it. So if it gets to be problematic, I will put sub chat on. That's no biggie. And I'll leave it on for the whole entire night. You see, that's the thing. Enough is enough with the trolling. Enough is enough. And nobody here applauds trolling. We actually look down upon it because it is just evil and it is demonic. I want to make that very clear to everyone. And I've said this before. If you troll, you cannot say that you are a Christian. Not possible. Not possible. Because if you have said this if you have the Holy Spirit within you, you don't troll other people. You just don't. So for those of you who are on TikTok who are trolling, all you're doing is projecting your own spiritual turmoil. I have never in my life trolled another human being because I don't find using words to hurt other people. I don't find that funny. I don't find it entertaining at all. And anybody who would is actually sadistic. That is sadism. That's the very definition of sadism. So anyway, that's it. Well, here's why people say ignore the trolls. You guys need to understand that I'm getting flooded with a bunch of messages stating that I'm a fraud because I always put sub chat on. You don't get the messages. I do. I had 71 messages on TikTok alone just this morning because I had to put sub chat on the other day for Bible study. You don't get those messages. I do. And then people create these little groups to attack me because they say I'm a fraud because I force people to subscribe to chat. I will address this issue because it needs to be addressed head on. I'm not going to be intimidated by trolls at all. So the reason I put subscriber chat on is because people come in here and they're the most despicable. They say the most god-awful things. And I'm not going to give them a platform to do that. Now, if you don't like me, that's fine. You don't have to like me. That's okay. That's perfectly fine. But just come in and enjoy the show. Just enjoy the company. So cursing and cussing are two different things, Dustin, and you're not my dad. You're not my dad. You're not my mom. And I don't take orders from a person who's clearly 14 years old. So there's a big difference. So if you don't like it, then leave. I'm not in your live. You're in mine. Okay. There we go. I just wanted to, I want to make that very clear. So now people can say, they're going to say it no matter what, but you understand. If you have the Holy Spirit within you, you don't troll other people. And for those of you who are trolling, you need to understand you are under demonic oppression. And that is coming from an exorcist, and I'm telling you are. We are because basically we're normalizing abnormal behavior. When you begin to normalize using words and actions to hurt another person, that's a problem. That is a problem. So this, my friends, is most certainly, I need to address this because it is demonic. It is demonic. So, okay. All right. That's done. I've dealt with it and we're moving on. So moderators, let me know if it becomes a problem. Just tell me and I'll put sub chat on. I'll be done. So just let me, if it gets, I'm already seeing tons of people already being blocked. And so just let me know if it gets to be just overwhelming. Just put it in caps and I'll put sub chat on. All right. So, hey, Friday, it is paranormal. We're going to have a good time. And I cannot, man, already we're rolling into 2026. 2026. Is it me or says 2025 just seemed to be kind of, it's like a cloud, almost like a fog. Has anybody ever experienced this? Oh, thank you, Mark. Thank you. Has anybody ever experienced that? It just feels like it's like in a fog. A lot of people have. Okay. That is weird. It's been strange lately. It has been very, very weird. What we're going to do today is we're going to talk about some haunted locations in every state. And then I'm going to also talk about some psychic predictions that were made for 2025, what came true and what were just completely wrong. And then some psychic predictions allegedly for 2026. Now, I know people are going to say psychics aren't real, blah, blah, blah. I disagree. I think there are people that are gifted. Absolutely. Oh, I know. It's not a matter of think. I know. I've met them. I've talked about this before. I'm on record by stating that I do believe there are people that have that gift. And actually, a lot of people say that everybody has that gift in some form, way, or manner. But a lot of people just simply don't tune into it. Yeah, I mean, it's, I've talked about this before. Like, for example, I've been in the paranormal field for 35 years. And so my first place that I investigated was Waverly Hills in Louisville, Kentucky, because that's where I live. And I got to tell you guys, that was a very interesting experience. But as an exorcist now, I've performed 34 exorcisms on people who are truly possessed. Some of the exorcisms were violent and some were not. So there's no two exorcisms are exactly the same. But I have noticed that a lot more people are doing things that they shouldn't do, especially on social media. You know, going to locations and and even pushing the envelope, inviting. Oh, well, let me give an example of psychic mediums. So I was a police chaplain for a major metropolitan police department. And I've said this story many times before, but many of you are new. And so there was a psychic medium that contacted the police and told them that they had information about a missing person. And they told the police where they could find the remains of the person. Now, I was there. I saw it with my own eyes. I was within the family of the missing person. They were there too, but the police wanted me there with the family so they wouldn't run onto the scene, just in case there's any type of evidence there, which makes sense. Now, the family was very anti-psychic medium. They were very strict Southern, extreme, hardcore Southern Baptist family, which is fine. That's their faith. And they were convinced, 100% convinced that they were not going to find the remains of, and that this was demons trying to trick the family, and this psychic medium is just a possessed person. I mean, they were hardcore. Well, the psychic medium told the police where they could find the remains. They found the remains of the individual 5 feet. 5 feet from where the medium told them they would find the remains. I witnessed it. I saw it with my own eyes. And you know what bothered me a lot? It really troubled me because the family was so aggressive towards the psychic medium before they found the remains. Of course, after they found the remains, they were able to properly bury their loved one. They were able to find closure. But what I found rather insulting on behalf of the psychic medium is that this family was so aggressive, judgmental, and yet it was only until something benefited them, then they realized, well, maybe that psychic medium, maybe God spoke to that person that one time. It was like, you know what? Why does it have to be like that? Why do you have to completely change your tune when it benefits you? And then all of a sudden, well, I guess there are some psychic mediums that are legitimate. And I thought that was so hypocritical. And it truly was. So, and it's interesting, though, I will give the family credit. After that, they started questioning, well, maybe, this judgmental stuff, maybe we need to be a lot less judgmental. So it opened their eyes. So I just think, but I thought it was sad that it took that. So no, prophecy is different. And by the way, this prophecy, there's a lot of people calling themselves prophets. Well, they're in the business of making a profit. And then people say, well, Bishop Long, so are you. Wrong, sunshine. I don't get paid as a bishop. I don't get a stipend, a salary, retirement. I work. I teach online English. And by the way, I don't charge ever for my ministry. I do the ministry 100% free. But when I say free, somebody's got to pay the bill. Meaning, when I go to the family or stay at a hotel, who do you think pays for it? Santa Claus? I pay for it. I put $15,000 on my credit card to help families. So don't come preach to me about, oh, you do this for fame and fortune. If I do it for fame, then I'd be charging. It's kind of hard to make fortune when you're giving money away. And especially when you don't charge. And I don't charge because, look, I'm a human being like everybody else. And I get, things break down and have problems. And thank you, only until recently have I been getting help, on some of the cases. And I'll tell you, Judy Ann has really tremendously helped me. But the community helps. But for 23 years, I did this on my own. So, and the reason I don't ever charge is because I'm not going to give the devil a chance to work on me. Oh, servant of Jesus Christ was blocked on TikTok. Servant of what the username of servant of Jesus Christ. So a person who has a username, servant of Jesus Christ, did you not read the book? Did you not read the Bible properly? Remember when Jesus gave you 2 commands, love God and love your neighbor? Oh, that's right. We forgot that part. Anyway, typical. Keep them out. Well, what if you repent? You should repent every day. Yeah, you should repent every day. Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you're using the name, servant of Jesus Christ, and you're trolling clergy, That's woo, boy, I tell you what, that's a great news. That is great news. Kind of crazy. All right. Back to the story. So anyway, the family changed their perspective on psychic mediums. And I just, like I said, it took that. It took them to benefit before they were willing to say, you know what? Maybe now people say, well, what about the Old Testament? I find it fascinating that people keep taking the Old Testament and using it in the 21st century. Why do people do that? Do you know there are 613 laws in the Holiness Code? 613. You can't cherry pick. You can't take which laws you want from the Holiness Code and judge people in the 21st century when it has nothing to do with us. Thank God we don't go around stoning prostitutes anymore. Stop taking the Holiness Code. You cannot do this. And I'm going to remind you, Matthew chapter 7, verse 2 says you're going to be judged in the same manner you judge others. So if you continue to hold people accountable for the 613 laws of the Holiness Code, then when you stand before God and you get eternally judged, you better follow all 613 laws. Because Matthew chapter 7, verse 2 says you're going to be judged in the same manner. So keep on judging people and find out what happens in the end. All right. He's not God. What? He's not God. We're all gods. Okay, yeah. You and you created the universe, did you? The only thing you created is gas. All right. Ridiculous. Let's talk about some haunted locations, everybody. Haunted locations. There we go. We're going to get into this. And very quickly, TikTok, I won't pay attention to your trolling. You're not going to get my attention. You'll get the moderator's attention, but mine. All right. What a day. What a day. Let's get into this, everybody. We're going to talk about some haunted locations, and then we're going to get into some psychic. Some of these places are really crazy. Let me pull this list up. This thing was cursed. Some of these psychic predictions were so stupid. It's like, what? What are you talking about? This is some King Kong. Really, seriously. Yep, you will be blessed and be blocked. Alabama, Maple Hill Cemetery. In Huntsville, Alabama, for those of you who have been, this is by Thrill List. Well, thank you very much. It says, oh, sure, the actual cemetery here is creepy and all, but it's the playground that really gets you. In 1985, somebody decided to open a playground adjacent to Huntsville's oldest cemetery. Well, that sounds like a good idea. Presumably to give the children of mourning parents some respite. Instead, it appears that the resident ghosts are the ones enjoying it most. People report seeing orbs of light going down the slide and unoccupied swings moving. Thank you. Even accompanied by disembodied children laughing. And adding to the eeriness, some locals believe the victims of a rash of child unalivings in the 60s were buried nearby, and their spirits now having eternal play dates with the cemetery's official residents. Yeah, isn't that crazy? And by the way, disembodied voices are voices that you can hear. So if it's disembodied, you can hear it with your ear. If it's EVP, it stands for electronic voice phenomena. That's on a digital recorder. Thank you very much. I'll get to your questions later on. I don't answer questions right now because I'm giving a presentation. Okay, so in Alaska, the Alaskan Hotel in Juneau. So the most famous ghost to roam the halls of Alaska's oldest operating hotel is that of a gold miner's wife who lived there while waiting for her husband to return. And when he didn't, she began supporting herself by working as a woman of the night. Anyway, until he did return. And not exactly thrilled with her new career, thank you, he unalived her. And now guests and staff regularly report the encounters with her ghost. Oh, that's kind of crazy. In Arizona, the Jerome Grand Hotel. I've talked to a lot of paranormal investigators who've been here. They are absolutely convinced that this hotel is very haunted. It's located in the scenic hillside town of Jerome. It's a former gold mining hub since, thank you. since known as the wickedest city of the West, and today one of the Arizona's coolest small towns, is the Jerome Grand Hotel, formerly known as the United Verde Hospital. Originally, it was built in 1917, and then again in 1926, and after a mine explosion destroyed the first. The Great Depression caused the hospital to take serious downturn, and by 1950, it had been abandoned entirely. The hospital sat essentially dormant until it reopened as the Jerome Grand in 1996. And much of the building's original structure and facilities have been restored. Many of its spirits still linger. The specter of a maintenance man found unalived in the basement in the 30s, human-shaped figures that roam the hall, children who run and laugh in the corridors, and even the spirit of a cat who scratches at guests' doors at night, begging to be let in. I don't, you know what? If I'm a patient, no, cat, stay out. You need to go scratch, go get some catnip or something. You don't need to be in here. Okay. Arkansas. My sister, I have not. My sister Shannon, no. However, someone's asking, Elizabeth's asking, have I seen my sister Shannon? As you know, my sister Shannon, she passed away. I have not. However, I did have a very powerful experience. Wasn't that long ago, I think a couple months ago. Shannon had a specific perfume. And I obviously I've been at her house many times, and she would have it. I knew the scent. Now, for those of you who may not know, I don't wear perfume. I had to say it before the trolls say it. Just kind of, anyway. So there's no perfume bottles in my home, none whatsoever. There's Stetson. There's Stetson and Old Spice. Oh, no, I'm just kidding. Anyway, I was in the kitchen and I was thinking of her, and I tell you what, honestly, Tom Ford. I like Tom Ford. But there was a very powerful perfume in my kitchen, and that was her perfume. And I got to say, I knew at that moment she was there. Because again, her perfume, it was a very specific smell. And again, I live alone. So there's nobody here. It was like somebody had just sprayed it right there in my face. It was like, oh, wow. Okay. So I knew that was, without question, she was there. Without question. And, it's okay, Rick. You don't have to be religious, actually. I mean, there's a lot of people are spiritual and religious, and I'm not a big fan on denomination elitism and all that other nonsense, or even cigar smoke. Yeah, she had two kids. But I really, absolutely, that was it was very prevalent. And so I thought, okay, that's pretty cool. That is very, very cool. And so I had that, but as far as have I seen her? No. Now I had two animals. I had two animals, Fuzzy and Kylie. They were both schnauzers. And I've talked about this before. Fuzzy had this, he would constantly, what he'd do is before he sit down, he would go around 3 times, make 3 circles, and then plop. No matter where he was, he would just plop. And it wasn't that long ago that I was sitting on the couch going over some notes, and there's Fuzzy. I could feel there's a 1, 2, and plop. And I absolutely 100%, because he'd been in my life for 12 years. And so I was like, that was Fuzzy. In Arkansas, the Arlington Hotel. So this grand century-old hotel is a paragon of ornate luxury. So much so that you'd probably choose to stay a while if you were a ghost too. Well, history weighs on the place, as well as on your mind. 4 presidents have stayed there, plus Babe Ruth and Al Capone. And outside, the old-timey lamplights guide your walk through the downtown spring-fed spas that draw visitors to the resort town, echoing against stone buildings and set against the backdrop of steep, inky forest. Even the burbling fountain of sound ghostly ominous. So a lot of people say they see ghosts in the Arlington Hotel. California, it is the Turnbull Canyon. Now, this is not every location. These are just on this particular list. California is packed with terrifying places. So from cult compounds to famous terrible sites, haunted hotels, mysterious mansions, none of them come with the promise of a brisk, scenic hike. But Turnbull Canyon offers a 4-mile hike through the sprawling Puente Hills. Keep an eye out for sweeping city views and the ghost of 29 people who perished there in a plane crash in the 50s. Oh, and the ghosts of children, too. According to legend, were taken from a nearby orphanage and terrible things. And the ghost of the teen who was found some old electroshock equipment from the canyon's burnt down asylum and fried his brain despite the site having no power. Anyway, wait. And then, of course, if you've ever been there, I've never been there. Who am I under? Well, Jesus Christ. Oh, Sarah got blocked. Why did she get blocked? She asked, who was I under? Why do we block Sarah? Spam. Okay. Yeah, let's just be careful. Okay, the problem is if we block too many people, I get it. If we block too many people, then we get punished. And then what happens is TikTok takes us off the FYP. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Okay. I know it's crazy. It's this constant. It is. You actually get in trouble. So the FYP is like, for example, if someone logs in and they see shows, what happens is if they punish you, then your show doesn't even show up that it's live. And you have to physically go to that person's thing. It's just ridiculous. All right, Colorado, the Stanley Hotel. So if you've read or seen The Shining, well, yeah, you got to be careful. It's stupid. Anyway. If you've seen The Shining, you'll know the feel of the often snowed-in hotel. It's the location Stephen King based his Overlook Hotel upon. And it may not look like the film because it's technically not, unless you watch the 1990s made-for-movie version, which was actually filmed there. Anyway, it holds our rumors of haunted rooms, service workers who still wander the grounds. Be warned, there's much more sinister danger. I've never been there. I have had friends who've gone to the Overlook, or I'm sorry, the Stanley. They didn't experience anything. And then I've also had friends who've gone to the Stanley, and then they saw everything. They saw everything. So I don't know. Have any of you been to the Stanley? Yeah, they did, Connie. Our moderators are top notch. Our moderators are very loyal. But it's ridiculous how even when I'm doing a presentation, I have to be very careful of every word that I say. Because if you don't, then you could be like Mr. Producer and have your account completely removed. It could be deleted altogether. So every script that I put together, I have to be careful with every word. But those are the rules. Oh, Sister Jennifer says, I experienced a disembodied voice with a witness at the Stanley. Very cool. Wow. Oh, thank you very much, RCD. Do you know what do you remember what it said? I've never been to the Stanley, but for me, it's the problem with the Stanley, it's really pricey. It is really expensive. But so was the Queen Mary, which I'm still working on, guys. I know it's been a while. Look, I can only do so much. I'm only one person. I wish I had a team that it's me. So doing the best we can. Yeah, Don, we'll have to do that later. This is the paranormal show tonight. It's very, yeah, again, folks, so thank you very much, Jim. For those of you who are new, this is our Paranormal Friday show. We only do 2 weeks for the entire week that we dedicate to the paranormal. Otherwise, we're here Sunday through Friday. So, okay, and even later on tonight, we have night prayer, and we can talk about theology there. Connecticut, the 1754 house. It's known as the Evergreen Inn, and later the Curtis House Inn before reopening as the 1754 house in 2020. Gordon Ramsay once featured Connecticut's oldest inn and is appropriately titled Reality Show Hotel Hell, bringing a paranormal investigator to corroborate what locals and visitors have been claiming for centuries. The place is haunted. Ramsay's unsettling difficulty exiting his room during a 5-day stay could have been due to faulty hardwire. But try telling that to the guests who've reported disembodied voices, mysterious footsteps, and unwelcome otherworldly bedfellows throughout the inn's 260-plus year history. Apparent entities are believed to be the former inn owners and guests. Perhaps most terrifying for anyone who works there, former employees clocked in and they never clocked out. So a lot of people are asking questions about people are asking questions. I don't mind questions. It's just when I'm doing a presentation, I try to, but that's okay. We're just chill Friday. It's a chill Friday. Now, when I do a lecture, I'm focused only on the lecture. That's it. But tonight's more of a relaxing night. So, okay. So people are asking about earthbound ghosts. And remember, guys, we have a chat here. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 chats here on this computer. So I'm not just using TikTok. We have multiple chats going on at once. So just keep that in mind. I believe that heaven is not forced upon you. I believe heaven is presented to you. And I also believe that heaven exists outside of time and space. Can you be in heaven and be here at the same time? Yes. Heaven is not restricted to time or space. So I don't believe that, well, if you're in heaven, you can't be here. I don't believe that. Not only that do I not believe it, I'm convinced that it's just simply not true. I'm also convinced that not everything is a demon. There are many people that want to say that it's all demons. It just simply is not true. If it was, I would tell you. As a matter of fact, that would even be better for me as an exorcist, but it's not true. So I have been to many locations where it was not aggressive, it wasn't violent. There was activity, but it just was not aggressive. So no, I just simply do not believe that everything is a demon. It's just not true. In Delaware, Fort Delaware, if you've ever been, Civil War prisons were particularly unpleasant places to be incarcerated back in the 1860s. With what the rampant gangrene, amputations, war-induced psychosis. The spirits of the soldiers there, in turn at this former Union prison, are said to haunt the imposing granite and brick behemoth. I've never been here, which sits a short ferry ride from the Delaware City on Pea Beach Island. And during October weekends, you can take an immersive 5-hour tour of the fort where you'll use ghost sensing equipment to search for paranormal activity. Tickets, by the way, are $110. That's a lot. It certainly is possible, Teresa. Yeah. Teresa's asking, could it be that the spirits are in purgatory and are allowed to do that? Here, see that there are a lot of people that don't agree and believe in purgatory. I do believe that purgatory exists. I've heard that theory before, and it's quite possible. In Florida, Fort East Martello Museum. This Key West Fort East Martello Museum is home of the OG macabre Florida man, Robert the Haunted Doll, which, by the way, I have seen Robert the Doll. Now, the inspiration of Annabelle, and I have seen Annabelle. Robert was a gift given to the late artist Robert Eugene Otto. By the way, I knew Lorraine. I was friends with Lorraine. I did not know Ed. As a boy, Otto would blame the doll for all sorts of mischief, but the whole thing morphed from a cute little Calvin and Hobbes riff into something far more sinister. Some say the raggedy, weathered little sailor doll is cursed, and he's reported to change facial expressions from time to time, and some say he'll let out little giggles. Oh, and some say he'll cause endless pain and suffering to people who disrespect him by taking his photo without permission. And it's true. People would take a picture. They're like, do you mind if I take a picture before they take it? Otherwise, they're convinced that would be bad luck. There are some people that are absolutely convinced of this. And again, for those of you who just knew, I appreciate you all being here. So I'm Bishop Long. We're just talking about some haunted locations in the United States. And afterwards, we're going to talk about psychic predictions for 2025. What came true or what was way off? And then psychic predictions, of course, for 2026. Yeah, Melissa says you're not taking any chances. No. Let me just say something. Somebody asked about investigation. You need to understand that once you go into a location and it is known to have paranormal activity, you have to be prepared for something malevolent as well. And I always tell people, you've got to take the good with the bad. If you're going to paranormal investigate, do not do anything. Do not do it. Do not give the invitation. Do not provoke. Don't do anything that's going to cause an attachment. Anything. No, I have not. No, I'm not, Ernie, but I've heard about it. And especially demonic locations, stay away from them. There is no reason for people to be at a demonic location. None. Unless you're working a case for the church. Stay away from these locations. Inevitably, people think that I'm, I guess, being dramatic when I say that. Okay, well then go. And then when you go and something happens and you contact me and I tell you I can't get there because I have 21,000 emails, then what are you going to do? You're going to try to find another clergy. And then the clergy says, well, sure, I'll help you for $5,000. Stay away from this, guys. In Georgia, the Oakland Cemetery, built in 1850, Atlanta's Oakland Cemetery is the city's oldest, largest cemetery and among the most haunted places in Georgia. It is home to Maynard Jackson, Bobby Jones, Margaret Mitchell, among many others. The cemetery includes a Confederate branch where visitors insist that they have seen uniformed soldiers wandering the grounds and doing other things. Creep in as far as you dare, but be warned. Some have alleged that they have heard Confederate Army roll call among the tombstones and swore that their name was called amidst the list. In Hawaii, in the Big Island, Hawaii's beautiful, obviously, and the island dancers welcome you with drums and native chants and blazing torches, all of which are awesome when those dancers are actually alive. Not too awesome when they're ghosts of ancient warriors marching through the islands, armed to the teeth. But those are the night marchers, legendary spirits who roam the islands in an eternal march to battle. Most longtime locals have stories about encountering them, mostly in specific spots spread throughout the island. The creepiest is on the northern shore of Hawaii. Though the park has some of the most scenic lookouts in the state, the pounding beats and chants of night marchers echo especially loudly to the valley when the night marchers decide to join you for a hike. Woo. Well, thank you there, Lorette. In Idaho, and I'll get your questions later, guys. Just let me get through this here. Idaho, Old Idaho Penitentiary. This prison, built in 1872, was closed for 50 years. Today, it's a full-stop tourist attraction. Not unlike Alcatraz, you can tour the place, see where prisoners were held in solitary. Wow. Even get a peek at the gallows from death row. So yeah, this place is haunted, largely by the prisoners who helped build it and ended their life sentence in the very walls they put up. Visitors report voices, feeling of heaviness, seeing apparitions, both were the eyes in the photos. What I would like to do, this year I was able to go to, thanks to Judy Ann, we were able to go to the Queen Mary. I really would, in 2026, like to go to more haunted locations. The problem with these haunted locations is it has become such a tourist attraction that, thank you, RCD, that the problem becomes investigating, and there's so much noise and there's so much foot traffic and other people that's present that it becomes nearly impossible to decipher what is legitimate evidence versus what is noise pollution, if you will. And that's the big problem. That's the big problem. Nope. I've never been in England. Now, the Enfield haunting, there's a lot of people who absolutely swear that the Enfield haunting is legitimate. Yeah. In Illinois, the old Joliet prison. So you know that feeling when you find out the previous renter of an apartment was kind of a creep? Well, this Gothic style-like prison complex was once the involuntary home of a notorious unaliver clown, John Wayne Gacy, and Richard Speck. And there were riots and slaying, terrible things. And when it closed, it sat abandoned for nearly 2 decades. It's now reopened for tours, paranormal or otherwise, and sometimes hosts even like movie screenings. The Blues Brothers was famously filmed there. And that's the old Joliet prison. Never been. In Indiana, the Haunted Bridge. Indiana's packed with enough haunting inns and estates to pack a whole town. And built for the little skin crawling outside a big city, head to the sleepy bedroom community of Avon, home to one of the nation's creepiest looking haunted bridges. The decrepit looking concrete railroad looks as old as the pyramids. Oh, yeah, I do. So if you care to park and poke around, locals say that you might encounter the ghost of a weeping woman whose child was unalived on one of the railroad tracks, or a drunken worker who fell into a load of wet construction concrete, was entombed in the bridge itself. Never been there. In Iowa, the Vasilla Axe Unaliving House. Anyway, we have to say unaliving for TikTok. For a truly one-of-a-kind night away, look at the Vasilla Axe Unaliving House, the aptly named home where 8 people were unalived in their sleep back in 1912. The case is still unsolved, but the main suspect was traveling minister who had taught at a nearby church that night and left town early the next morning. Well, tours and overnight stays are offered in the very room that were the scene of this massacre. In Kansas, there's a place called the Stoll Cemetery. And there's another place also in Kansas. That's pretty, the Sally House. But locals, the Stoll Cemetery, locals know this tiny cemetery in unincorporated Kansas Township as a portal to hell that the devil comes out twice a year. As outlandish as it sounds, the ruins of a nearby church and the bizarre architecture will have you half believing the rumors. I've talked about this before. Oh, I would love to. Yeah, but just very expensive, Rick. I think I've said this before, and I can't remember where it was. I wrote it down. Of course, I can't find the notes. But there was this one church, and I think someone here, they knew where it was, and I'm going to write this sucker down because I want to go to this church. It was a church. It was on a television show. And on this television show, it was like a construction. There was this guy, he was hiring people, and the people were so terrified that they left. So that he actually had to, you found it. Do you remember where that was, Jax? Because he was the manager, all of his workers were so terrified, they left. They left in the middle of the night. They were so, no, it wasn't a seminary. It was a church. And it was on a television show. So they were doing some construction, and he had people there and, just kind of watching it. And every one of them left terrified. So that he had to actually go there, the manager, and be there. And it scared him so much. He left in the middle of the night. But we'll see if Jax can find it. Oh wow, Christopher. Yeah, I think that's the show. Benji, I think you're right on. These woods are haunted. That is the right. Yep. I'm going to write this down because I want to know. I'm gonna put a note on this on my phone because I want to know if this is still a thing or not. I will because it was a great show. It was a great show. The Devil House. I haven't heard of the Devil House. I've heard of a lot of other, but not the Devil House, not in Kentucky. But okay, in Kentucky, by the way, you have Waverly Hills, very, very famous, and also, no question, the Gates of Hell Cemetery, no question, and otherwise known as KC Cemetery. That place is not a good place. Hello. So this one is from Sauerkraut. This is Sauerkraut Cave. Sure, it's got its name because it once used to age sauerkraut, but there's something far more sinister fermenting here. Sauerkraut Cave earned its legend because it was located beneath the Lakeland Asylum for the Insane, an institution that was marred by accusations of overcrowding and mistreatment of patients. Well, the cave beneath is now raised asylum, is believed to have been an occasional escape. I've been to this one. It's near Tom Sawyer. I have been to this location. I didn't feel threatened. I wasn't scared. We were in the cave, and there's this. It gets really like a tight tunnel. Very, very. There's no way you could go through. Oh yeah, Bachelor's Goals. I've been there, but you can't go into it. And I absolutely heard people chatting and speaking. Yes, actually we do, Archie, and that's why 6 days a week we talk about the Bible and we talk about theology. Only 2 hours a week. Only 2 hours for 1 week we talk about the paranormal. Only 2 hours. The rest of the time that we're on, we talk the Bible and Scripture. 100%. Yeah, it's great. It's sauerkraut. It doesn't smell like sauerkraut, but it's an interesting place. But we heard whispers, and there's no way that someone could have been in the inside that little, because it's a small little, but there's no way. Okay, Louisiana, the little chapel there, St. Roach Chapel, and 19th century yellow fever swept Nolans, but Reverend Peter Thephus, the pastor of the Holy Trinity Catholic Church, had a plan. He prayed, St. Roach, and who was most identified with good health and healing, asking for members of his parish to be shielded from the disease and promising to build a shrine for the saint in gratitude. Well, while 40,000 Narlinians passed away, no one in Father Thevis community perished. Today, pilgrims still visit the St. Roach Chapel, leaving offerings around the shrine. Among the artifacts, children's polio braces, crutches, rows of prosthetic legs. That's pretty interesting. The next one is Maine, Mount Hope Cemetery. And Stephen King, by the way, grew up in Maine. So it's no surprise, really, that part of the 1989 Pet Sematary adaptation was shot there. For extra scares, watch the movie before a nighttime stroll through this creepy 181-year-old cemetery. And if you see if you can find the spot where Gage was buried. And on the way, you'll see some of the first Civil War monuments ever constructed, grave markers that date back all the way to 1836. Maryland, Coffin Rock. Yeah, I think it was in Texas. I just couldn't remember the name of it. The Blair Witch Project, by the way, still pulls tourists to Burkesville, Maryland. To find where most of the film was shot, though, you need to head into Black Hills Forest, about 20 minutes west of town, to find Coffin Rock. It's a large flat rock near a creek in the middle of the woods. Many people say that you can go there. It's where a Maryland search party went missing in 1886 while looking for 8-year-old Robin Weaver. The kid eventually returned to town. The search party did not. A second search party was found, and unalived people found at the hands and feet at Coffin Rock. and the bodies later vanished when the search party returned with backup help. Local legend attributes all of this to the so-called Blair Witch. It's interesting, a little bit of a history there. In Massachusetts, the Lizzie Borden bed and breakfast. So in case you don't remember the world's most disturbing nursery rhyme, what I didn't because didn't grow up there, Lizzie Borden unalived her parents with an axe in 1892. And now you can sleep at the delightful B&B, infamous crime scene where it all happened. And on your visit, you'll sleep at the Borden's home, eat their last meal, Johnny cakes and eggs, sleep in the bedroom where the body of Lizzie's stepmother was found. And after a stay there, the home painstakingly furnished to look exactly as it did on the morning of the unalivings will creep you out. Never been. Michigan, South Manitou Island, 16 miles offshore from Lake Michigan's Lalano Peninsula. South Manitou is home of 300-foot sand dunes, deserted shoreline, empty campgrounds. And with respect to the abandoned buildings of Detroit and Flint, it's about as creepy as you can get in Michigan. One legend suggests that a ship of cholera-stricken passengers stopped at the island. Sailors buried them in a mass grave while some was still alive. And if that alone doesn't stir you to set sail to the island, there are two cemeteries, a cedar forest where disembodied voices are often heard, and off the coast is the shipwreck of SS Francisco. No, I have, of course, heard the Sally House in Kansas. In Minnesota, the Wabasha Street Cave. Thank you. Our favorite Minnesota haunt. So luckily, Minnesota is home to as many haunts as its lakes. And one of the creepiest and most accessible is Wabasha Street Caves. This is one of the liveliest places on the list. An underground speakeasy from the 30s that still hosts weddings and parties so good that the original folks never seem to have left. Okay, it was called the Polly's Chapel. Okay. Thank you. Was that in Texas? I would love to go to that place. But of course, if it's I would imagine if this, they probably want as little, to do with paranormal investigators going to that location. Yeah, it's a pretty interesting place. Okay, great. Thanks. Thank you, Jack. Yeah, some of these are just, I don't like some of this list. Let me go into Missouri. Bear with me while I pull up this other list here. Thank you very much. So in Missouri, and then we're going to get into, in just a moment, we're going to get into the psychic predictions. What came true, what didn't. The Epperson House on the University of Missouri, the town of Avila, Route 66, is said to have large numbers of shadow people through village and also haunted by a remnant Civil War era bushwhackers. The Vale Mansion in Independence, Missouri, said to be haunted. Limp Mansion in St. Louis, Missouri. And by the way, I went to the actual house, the Exorcist house. I was there in 2015. And then Union Cemetery and Elmwood Cemetery in Kansas. In Montana, all right, no more questions. I got to get through this list. So Montana, there's the Bannock, a ghost town, was founded in 1862 and named after the Bannock Indian tribe. The Boulder Hot Springs Hotel, the Carroll College in Helena, the Copper King Mansion, the Dude Rancher Lodge in Billings is said to be haunted by one of its original owners. Interesting. The Little Bighorn Battlefield near Hardin, said to be haunted by ghosts. Montana Territorial Prison in Deer Lodge, Montana, said to be it seems like a lot of prisons, especially historical, there's a lot of haunted locations, no question. Virginia City, a ghost town turned tourist attraction, said to be haunted. In Nevada governor's mansion. That is it. Actually, guests and staff have reported seeing a woman and child on the premises. Wow. New Jersey, Cape May is one of the oldest towns in America, established in 1620. There's also Leeds Point, birthplace of the Leeds Devil. In New Mexico, the Chemo Theater in Albuquerque is said to be haunted by the ghost of a child. St. James Hotel was a site of many unalivings in the 19th century. In New York, well, there's a bunch of them. 112 Ocean Avenue House, a.k.a. Amityville. People do ask me a lot about the Amityville. I think the Amityville was legitimate, but I also think that the Lutz probably did things that he should not have done. George did things, he dabbled in some pretty dark stuff. And so I think because of that, that was an issue. In New York, the Cherry Hill Estate in southern Albany, the New York State Capitol in Albany, Merchant's House Museum in Manhattan, supposed to be haunted, the Kings Park Psychiatric Center, the Morris Jumel Mansion, and the Fire Island Lighthouse. So it'd be haunted by ghosts of lighthouse keeper and his daughter. In North Carolina, the Utmore Oliver House, the Brown Mountain in Burke, the Carolina Theater in Greensboro, Fayetteville allegedly hosts ghosts such as the Lady in Black, who haunts the Sanford House, the Harvey Mansion, the Tar River, and the Roanoke Island. That's interesting. The Roanoke Colony is a very interesting mystery. In North Dakota, the Liberty Memorial Building and the St. Anne's Guest Home. It's a Catholic healthcare facility. Ohio, Arnold's Bar and Grill, Cincinnati Music Hall, Madison Seminary, Bel Air, by the way, the Bel Air House, which I've been to many, many times. Oklahoma, Dead Women Crossing. In Weatherford, allegedly has paranormal activities, including mysterious blue lights. In Oregon, there are a number of reportedly haunted locations in Oregon. Lots. There's a Baghdad Theater, it's a vaudeville theater built in Universal Studios. Pennsylvania, a lot of locations. Gettysburg. I mean, the Gettysburg, I've never been to Gettysburg, but people have said that they swear. In Rhode Island, the Fleur de Lis Studio in Providence is said to be haunted by Angela O'Leary. South Carolina, Pawleys Island. And some other locations in South Dakota, Hotel Alex Johnson. I'm going fast because I need to get through this. In Tennessee, the town of Adams, the site of the Bell Witch. The Carton Mansion in Franklin and the Orpheum Theater in Memphis. In Texas, the commissary of the Houston Zoo, said to be haunted by the first zookeeper. The Minger Hotel of San Antonio, the Marfa Lights in 2004, and the USS Lexington in Corpus Christi. In Utah, the Alfred McCoon Home, Cottonwood Paper Mill. If you've been, let us know if you've been to these locations. In Washington, the Harvard Exit Theater, the parsonage of the First Methodist Protestant Church in Seattle, and Yee College, West Virginia, Elizabeth Moore Hall on the campus of West Virginia, Lake Shawnee Abandoned Museum Park. Lots of activity there. West Virginia Penitentiary in Moundsville. I've been there. Let me tell you something. That's an interesting location. You're going down the road, and then you turn left, and in this regular neighborhood, then all of a sudden you see this massive building. I think, what this? It's just really crazy. Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. Never been. I've always wanted to go there. In Wisconsin, the Feister Hotel in downtown Milwaukee, Science Hall, Wyoming Frontier Prison, and Wyoming Territorial Prison. So those are some of the haunted locations in the United States. I want to talk about some of the psychic predictions that did not occur in 2025. Imagine that. But now look, I will say, for the most part, a lot of people who say that they are psychic is about as psychic as my dog. And I don't have a dog. They're in heaven. But I do know, again, I will say, I'm not going to apologize to anybody. I believe that there are people that are gifted. And I also believe there are people who think they're gifted. There's a difference. Okay. Let's talk about some things that didn't happen. And we got to be fair. We got to be fair to what did and what did not happen. Some of these things were crazy. Yep, I'm friends with Chip Coffee. I've known Chip for a long time. All right. To be fair, this is by Skeptical Inquirer. So let's do the annual forecast check. There was 2,099 annual predictions from 52 sources that they took, more than ever before. One quarter was too vague to test. More than half were clearly wrong, and a solid bullseye were rare. Major events missed. Using new AI-assisted procedure, the 10 most historically important events of 2025 were identified, from attacks on Iranian nuclear facilities to the death of Pope Francis, the election of Pope Leo. Not a single psychic, medium, or star astrologer predicted these key events with concrete details. Also, the more detailed a claim, the less likely it was to be correct. And that fits the long-standing skeptical diagnosis. Real prophetic power, they argue, don't exist. Now, there was plenty of absurdity. So Canadian psychic Nikki Pizarro once again predicted the discovery of a King Kong-like giant ape on a remote island that she claimed is there. I'm not kidding you. Atop the year's hit list of the absurd, they say, also featured the return of Jesus. Many people said this. And a third world war involving extraterrestrials. Many people, I remember reading that last year. There were quite a few people who claimed to be psychics saying it's going to happen. It's not a matter of if and it will happen. They were wrong. And they were wrong. Now, and also many people said the return of Jesus would happen. Scientifically tested approaches such as, super forecasting, prediction markets, AI supported, all these, they missed. Now, a donut-shaped cloud that might be a UFO and can be seen worldwide, aliens fighting as a party of the World War III, and a clone Tyrannosaurus Rex, an angler who finally lands a Loch Ness Monster. These were some of the forecast, the predictions for 2025. As insanity as it sounds. And again, back on the list, Canadian psychic Nikki Pizarro had been repeating for years that the discovery of a giant gorilla, a real-life King Kong, on a remote island. Pizarro also foretold penguin invasions in several cities. Anyway, so you figure that out. So they've done systematic checks on high-profile predictions, and the picture has remained, they say, stubbornly consistent. The forecast of fortune tellers and astrologers once again failed to provide any serious indication that psychic abilities exist. I disagree with that. Just because they have a lot of people that are wrong, well, that doesn't imply that every one of them are wrong. And even psychics will tell you that they're not 100% right. But the team analyzed 2,099 predictions from 52 sources, ranging from classic psychics, astrologers, and spiritual counselors to tabloid and online media, social media. The predictions were collected between September 27th, 2024 and November 11th, 2025. And each was coded using a 5-point rating scheme. The results, 552 predictions, which is 26%, were so vague that they could not reasonably be tested. That's what drives me crazy, is when a person says, I see some changes for the King Charles. Okay. He might have, there might be a few health issues. Dude, he's old. I mean, yeah, you think? I mean, when something like that, it's like, come on, really, seriously? The vague stuff, it drives me crazy. 1,107 of the predictions, which was 52.7%, were 100% wrong. Among the rest, the team found mainly partial hits and highly expected developments. Straightforward, continuous of known trends. And in other words, like in 2024, if the conflict, let's say, was going on between Russia and Ukraine, and someone would say, I still see some tension in 2025. You think, Einstein? You think? That's not a prediction. Come on. See, that kind of stuff, I don't believe that. Even using a generous scoring standard, the team counted 253 hits out of 2,099 predictions for a rate of only 12%. So in homage of the Great Australian Psychic Prediction Project by Australian skeptic Richard Saunders, which evaluated 3,800 predictions and found a hit rate of 11%. So it seems like to me that these are skeptics that they're finding between 10 and maybe 12% are actually right on target, which I think is pretty interesting. But it does say this, and this is very important. Skeptics have long stressed a simple logical point. Vague predictions have a better chance of coming true than precise ones. So the less sharply a claim is formulated, the easier it is to shoehorn some later event into it. For example, I predict that there's going to be some type of conflict between two powerful countries next year in 2026. That is so vague. I mean, come on now. Now, if you're going to be specific, I think that there's going to be a conflict between the United States and whatever country in March of 2026. That's a bit, okay, now that's specific. But what they're saying is when it becomes so vague, usually what they are finding is a trend is that most of them are wrong. Among the most prolific psychics, allegedly, are Canadian psychic Nikki Pizarro, I don't know her, once again stood out with about 1,400 predictions. Wow. Only a small fraction was new. Much was recycled from previous years. Pizarro nicely illustrates strategies typical of professional forecasters in the psychic scene. So in other words, what they do is they have an enormous volume of predictions, plenty of vague formulations, a skiing accident around maybe the Trump family. Well, the Trump family is pretty large. And if they're, I mean, it wouldn't, come on. Numerous high base rate events like hospital stays, cancer diagnosis in elderly royals, hurricanes in Florida. I mean, so in this case, no. By the way, so the absurd predictions were a King Kong-like giant gorilla. Now, we're not talking about Mr. Producer, but a King Kong-like giant gorilla will be discovered, allegedly on a remote island. Also, there are psychics that predicted in 2025, time travel will become a reality. Scientists will clone a Tyrannosaurus Rex. That's what psychics said last year, that we would do this year. They also said a donut-shaped cloud, possibly a UFO, will be visible around the world. And extraterrestrials will become a belligerent party in World War III. And many predicted that Jesus will return on earth on the 23rd or 24th of September. Anyway, that didn't happen. So there was a lot of missed. Well, no question, no ifs, ands, or buts about that. So let us talk about Baba Vanga. Baba Vanga. Everybody talks about Baba Vanga every single year. Every year you hear about Baba Vanga. Well, and it's true. And this is, I'm looking at trying to find this is by, well, I don't see an author. Okay, well, I don't see an author here. But Baba Vanga tends to resurface whenever a new year feels precarious. That's true. And 2026, well, let's just say there are plenty of lightning rods. While hard, dated transcripts are rare from Baba Vanga, a cluster of claims linked to 2026 keeps circulating. At Sky History, there it is, there's a little bit of information for it. Anyway, the most dramatic 2026 claim is that humanity will encounter extraterrestrial life, sometimes framed as a large craft approaching Earth in November 2026. Roundups point to a huge spacecraft descending on planet Earth and fold-in chatter around the interstellar object. So it's going to happen in November. Catastrophic natural disasters. Another widely repeated claim, massive earthquakes, violent volcanic eruptions, extreme weather will batter seven. But see, that's what I'm talking about. That's so vague. Baba Vanga predictions seldom specify locations or even dates for that matter. Well, isn't that nice? Anyway, a year of escalating conflict. Baba Vanga's name is also attached to predictions of rising global conflict, sometimes shading into World War III rhetoric. They said that last year, suggesting that 2026 will mark a dangerous hinge. In 2025, that frame centered on a largely East versus West theme at the beginning of the downfall of humanity. In 2026, Baba Vanga devotees are pushing the theme forward as the wider escalation of conflict across the globe. An AI turning point. Several believers credit Vanga with warning that artificial intelligence would begin to dominate key sectors. There's nothing in Baba Vanga that says artificial intelligence. So I'm telling you now that information is incorrect. Although most of Baba Vanga's economic claims are stapled to 2025, some enthusiasts roll a theme forward and warn continued instability of 2026. One of Baba Vanga predictions, like political conflict, natural desires, even alien contact, the idea is that these disruptions will ripple through the supply chains and markets. Mining energy from Venus. The prediction is technically scheduled for 2028. But as anyone at NASA will tell you, space exploration is a long process. Baba Vanga predicted that humanity will start harvesting energy from Venus by 2028. That ain't going to happen. Thank you, Debbie. Synthetic organs. That, I believe, will eventually happen. No question about it. Previous predictions by Baba Vanga put mass-produced synthetic organs on the table in 2046. And this kind of medical advance doesn't happen overnight. So 2026 could be the year of the scaffolding hardens, and I believe so. I think that will happen. Also, it's not all doom and gloom. Fans credit Baba Vanga with foreseeing a medical leap in cancer diagnosis and treatments. And I believe with artificial intelligence, that could absolutely be possible. 2026 could be the year multi-cancer early detection blood test move from pilots to natural screening programs in at least one major country. Expect headlines about catching hard-to-spot cancers like pancreatic and ovarian cancer. That's great. But over the years, the Baba Vanga predictions have been very incorrect. There have been some alleged correct, but I don't know. I'm skeptical on this because she's been wrong more than she's been right. Okay. So if you guys have questions, you can jump in there. Since I'm just going to keep doing a few more of these predictions, And we'll go from there. There are some alleged psychic predictions that I want to bring to you. This is from Psychic World, so keep that in mind. The most significant astrological event of 2026 occurs on February the 20th. Write that down. When Saturn and Neptune meet at critical zero Aries point, the reset and restart degree of the zodiac. The conjunction happens only once every 36 years. Its placement at the Aries point makes it historically unprecedented in transformative potential. Okay. This is not merely a planetary alignment. Thank you. It is a cosmic reboot. What the hell does that mean? So Saturn represents structure, reality, discipline, hard truths. Neptune embodies dreams. They're rocks. They're planets. Illusion, spirituality, dissolution of boundaries. And when these two meet in Aries, the sign of new beginnings, courage, pioneering action, we witness dreams becoming structure. The dissolution of old orders. Anyway, the last Saturn-Neptune conjunctions coincide with the fall of the Berlin Wall, the Russian Revolution. Thank you very much. Thank you, Tammy. And the publication of the Communist Manifesto to 2026 brings this energy back. Okay. So here's what they're saying on this website. Our psychics all agree, and they all predict that 2026 will bring a definitive ceasefire in the Ukraine conflict with significant concessions on both sides by mid-year. The Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Aries signals a moment when ideological rigidity, Saturn, gives way to pragmatic compromise. The international community, exhausted by prolonged conflict and under the influence of shifting leadership dynamics, will broker an agreement. Expect intensive diplomatic negotiation to accelerate between March and July. This is from Psychic World. President Vladimir Zelensky will face an unaliving attempt in late spring between May and June. He will survive. And this event will paradoxically strengthen peace negotiations as the reality of continued violence becomes unbearable. All right. The cryptocurrency bull run. Here's the deal. You don't need to be a psychic to know that cryptocurrency is something that is not going to go away. It is just simply not. No, you can jump in right now. We're just kind of going over some psychic predictions. So now if you have questions, certainly will, Mike. Now if you have questions, we can entertain them. This is now just a chill out time. Yeah, this is usually on the last Friday of the year. We just more of a chill out. I am going to send a message to we'll chat on for the moderators. Edgar Gacy was wrong by a lot of things. A lot of things. So I read many of Gacy's predictions and way off. And because I'm in Kentucky too, we're very familiar with Gacy. But a lot of these people on the psychic world say that the bearish crypto market that we've experienced late to 2024, 2025 is about to reverse dramatically. Bitcoin will reach 150,000 by fourth quarter 2026, allegedly, with the surge beginning in earnest after the Neptune-Saturn conjunction in February. So they claim that Bitcoin is going to explode. So if you invest and you make a lot of money, just, remember the show. Just remember the show. All right. The FIFA World Cup 2026 first-time winner, everybody. I never really liked soccer, but 2026 FIFA World Cup, hosted jointly by USA, Canada, and Mexico, will crown a first-time World Cup winner. Their psychics' visions point strongly toward either Mexico, never won, hosting advantage, Jupiter and Leo favoring bold performance, Belgium, or Portugal. Anyway, the final will be played under the influence of the Uranus-Pluto area, when historically corresponds with the underdog victories and revolutionary upsets in major sporting events. But look, you just listed three of the most well-known soccer teams. Come on. That's really, see what I mean by that? It's like, Seriously? But anyway, they say 2026, the World Cup, it will crown a first-time World Cup winner. Okay, we'll see. Celebrity predictions. Oh, come on, this is stupid. All right. Imagine this prediction. Legendary actor and director Clint Eastwood will pass away in 2026. You think? The man is in his 90s. Anyway, their psychics place this between July and September, likely around the time of Leo eclipse in August, which will trigger a wave of mortality among Hollywood's elder statesmen. Eastwood's death will spark a cultural reckoning about the changing nature of the American masculinity and the end of a certain era of American cinema. Yeah, Tesla, according to them, will experience a significant setback in 2026, losing over 15% of its market capitalization in a single quarter. The cause will be multifactorial: production issues at new manufacturing facilities, increased competition from Chinese European EV manufacturers, regulatory challenges surrounding autonomous driving technology. So if you're an investor in Tesla, Andrew Tate, jailed again. Controversial influencer Andrew Tate, don't even know who he is, will be jailed again in 2026. Their psychics see this occurring in late summer or fall, following new charges or violation of existing legal agreements. The imprisonment will be in Romania, potentially the United Kingdom, and will be more definitive than previous legal troubles. All right. Political upheavals. Let's talk about that very quickly. Trump's health issues in second term. So President Donald Trump will experience significant health challenges as he enters. Well, he's 80 years old, isn't he? I mean, come on. Our psychics do not see, as he enters the second term of his presidency, our psychics do not see this as immediately life-threatening, but serious enough to reduce his public appearances for several months. Increased speculation about the 25th Amendment, and empower the vice president to take a more active role. The health issues will likely be cardiovascular or neurological in nature. I mean, that has been, many people have talked about this. I mean, swollen ankles, hands, come on. Occurring between June, September 2026. Anyway, European political earthquake. Saturn-Neptune conjunction will trigger the most significant political re-enlightenment in Europe since the 1990s. Germany undergoes its most radical political shift since reunification, with new coalitions breaking decades of traditional party dominance. France faces serious challenges to centrist visions. Italy continues its rightward drift. At least 2 major European leaders will resign unexpectedly. Economic predictions. The great AI reckoning. So they say Uranus and Gemini, combined with Pluto and Aquarius, will bring massive breakthroughs in AI capability that will shock even experts. Serious ethical crises require new regulatory frameworks. You don't need to be a psychic to predict this. I mean, we all know this. Banking sector stress. Let's see, Saturn, Neptune historically correlates with banking crisis. 2026 will see several mid-sized banks facing serious stress or failure, commercial real estate exposure, creating system risk, new banking models emerging from certain sectors, and central bank digital currencies. I really do believe we're going to digital currency. Quantum computing goes commercial. The psychics say that 2026 will be remembered as the year quantum computing left the lab. The first commercially viable quantum computer applications will debut, initially in pharmaceutical discovery, financial modeling, and some other systems will trigger cybersecurity crisis, space exploration victory. The national debt will grow. That's right. Randall says, I will predict that come with 100% certainty, national debt will grow to new heights. There you go. Space exploration victory. private space industry achieves major milestone, likely the first commercial space station module, or successful lunar landing by private company, SpaceX or competitors will demonstrate capability that was impossible even 5 years prior. We know this. Social and cultural shifts. Listen to this. 2026 sees the beginning of a sincerity renaissance, where authenticity becomes the most valued social currency. Serious, long-form content makes a comeback. Craftsmanship and mastery are celebrated over being viral, and face-to-face community is actively sought. Youth rebellion. With Uranus and Gemini and Pluto and Aquarius, expect unprecedented youth-led movements, demanding radical climate action beyond incrementalism, economic restructuring to address generalizational wealth inequality, technology regulation from digital natives who understand the dangers and new forms of democracy beyond traditional parties. Ultimately, everything that was predicted here, there's nothing here, in my opinion, in that thing that I just read that would convince me, if I had to go on that alone to determine whether or not if psychic predictions, or I would absolutely say that is a bunch of junk. There's nothing there, nothing at all that convinced me that that's legitimate. It's too vague. It's way too vague. Yeah, just like Jack's Paranormal says, I predict Bishop will have mass on Sunday. It's like, come on. This is an individual, and then we're gonna. If you have questions, I'll jump in. Jump in. Well, these 2026. I don't know who this person is. June Heavenly is a teacher, intuitive astrologer, and writer. One thing I will give this person credit is they put them on the website, and they say for USA 2026 predictions, President Donald Trump will redefine Americans' identity, strengthen his ties to other countries worldwide, and have them continue to make investments in the United States. But he's doing that now. Artificial intelligence is top priority for him. He's already said this. He will find common ground with China and tariffs, making sure American manufacturers and pharmaceuticals, semiconductors bring back shipbuilding. And he will see that America remains number one in artificial intelligence. Nuclear weapons will continue to supply other European countries with aircraft, but we're already doing this. So that's nothing new. The United States will maintain its global prominence and continue to command and respect the nations such as China, Russia, North Korea, United Arab Emirates. The U.S. will remain the world's leading superpower. Okay, thank you. President Donald Trump will emphasize America's dominance in artificial intelligence. He's already done this. He did this not too long ago. Republican unity. President Trump will rely on strong GOP congressional support with a more loyal Republican Party backing his initiatives. His presidency will be transformational, focusing on government reform and expanded resource extraction across multiple states. Democrats and Republicans will be challenged to collaborate. You don't think? I mean, come on. Of course, J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance, president's vice president, will position himself as the future Republican Party. His active role in 2026 midterm will raise his profile ahead of potential 2028, but he's already did this. There's nothing here that I see. I'm just being honest. I don't see anything here that's specific. It's so general. Democratic opposition and political tension. If Democrats regain the House, they may attempt to impeach President Donald Trump. They've already said they're going to. Thank you. Economic outlook. The U.S. economy will experience moderate growth with manufacturing, consuming, spending slowly. Inflation may linger, but corporate profits are expected to rise, of course. The Bureau of Labor Statistics are likely to revise job growth estimates downward by September. The S&P 500 could climb to 7,000, fueled by strong earnings, consumer spending, advances in AI. Major financial firms will expand cryptocurrency trading and investment options. A digital dollar may be introduced. There's just nothing here. Homelessness will increase. Of course they will. I mean, I just can't keep going because there's nothing here that. Let's go with United Kingdom and Europe. Europe will experience intense heat waves during the summer of 2026. which will be driven by unusual global weather patterns. Citizens across the continent will be forced to seek shelter. Temperatures climbing record highs. Outlook: United Kingdom stock market remains strong. The European Union will allocate tens of billions of euros toward defense spending. They've already done this. Britain will cut immigration. Britain will cut immigration to its country. That's very specific. Graduate visas durations will be reduced. Work visas here harder to obtain. All right. Pope Leo's papacy is still in its formative cycle. See, Holy Father committed to keeping the Vatican traditions in Italy. However, the Pope will also address what is going on in the offices of the Vatican, war-torn regions in the world, in modern society. They've all done that. Okay. I think we're done. I don't see anything. Yeah, heat in the summer. Imagine. So I'm just not impressed with these predictions. I'm just not. But I wanted to share them with you so you can say yay or nay, but there's nothing. I don't see if there's anything there. Okay. Let us go into some of the articles that I found that I definitely want to share with you guys. The class on angels, it's not going to be anytime soon. Yeah, we're not going to do that anytime soon. Oh yeah, the miracle stairs in Loretto. I have. Yeah, that's really interesting. Oh goodness, big like that's terrible. Yeah, Debbie, this is what we're going to do here. This is our Paranormal Friday night show. You might be new, but that's what we do. We do Paranormal Fridays, and that's so on Paranormal Friday nights. That is what we're doing. Okay, let me pull this here. I have a question for you guys. The Grinch. We all know the story. We've all watched the movie. But have you ever wondered exactly what type of creature is the infamous Christmas villain? Well, let's talk about this. T.K. Randall, he wrote this, and I thought, well, this is pretty interesting. He's green. He dresses up as a Santa, and he has a bad attitude. But what species is he supposed to be? Well, Lucy Hyde writes this. The Grinch is one of the holiday season's most familiar icons. The grumpy green fur-covered Grunch who plotted to sabotage Christmas in Dr. Seuss' classic 1957 has now become a quintessential part of yearly festive rituals. But beneath the snarl and green fur, what kind of creature is he really? Not even Dr. Seuss really had an answer. This person says, as an anatomist, I can't help but wonder what the Grinch would look like on the dissection table, what his skeleton, muscles, and brains can tell us about it. But the Grinch's most recognizable feature is, of course, his face. And underlying these characteristic features would be a unique skull, unlike anything you'd find in Whoville on Earth. Structurally, the Grinch facial skeleton would blend like primate and canine traits. Short, broad snout, high cranium, powerful jaws. His face evolved for expression, adeptly capable of sneering and gloating. And then, of course, his cheekbones are broad and flared to accommodate for the large major muscles needed to lift the corners of his mouth into exaggerated smirk. Beneath his eyes would be a large bony canal carrying nerves to his whisker-like facial hairs. His teeth would be similar to a chimp's with sharp canines. Ooh. The upper jaw would be robust, slightly vaulted, lending resonance to the infamous laugh. Well, thank you very much. So the Grinch's yellow eyes with large forward-facing eye sockets suggest a interesting lifestyle, most active at dawn or dusk. Many animals with yellow eyes, such as owls and cats, are adapted to low light. His nasal aperture would be tall and narrow with a complex set of internal nasal bones. And the spine, if you watch the Grinch walk, he's upright but fluid, almost serpentine. His spine would probably resemble a cross between a gibbon and a cat. Well, these are pretty interesting. Like a cat, meaning he'd be walks on balls of his feet. The brain, anatomy often mirrors personality. Judging by behavior, the Grinch's frontal lobes, particularly his prefrontal cortex, would be on the small side, like the trolls, explaining his flat, small forehead. And given the region governs planning, impulse control, and moral reasoning, it would explain why he lacks these faculties at the story's start. The heart? Well, his heart grew 3 sizes. Biologically, such a sudden expansion would be catastrophic in humans and other mammals. A real heart simply cannot enlarge. So, to an anatomist, as this person is, the Grinch is more than a Christmas curiosity. He's a case study in form and function. And in the final form, anatomy and morality align. The muscles that once powered a sneer now lift into genuine smile. The hands that stole presents now carve roast beef. His limbic system now fires with satisfaction. So perhaps the real message of the Grinch anatomy is this: change is always possible. So, in other words, they don't know what this thing was, and nobody does. Nobody. Really? Maybe it was Mr. Producer. I'm just saying. You never know. You never know. By the way, if you're wanting the moon, some moon stories, this is a very interesting story that I had to share this with you because I'm a big space nerd. So I had to share this without question. This is by T.K. Randall. President Trump lays out an ambitious timetable for America's return to the moon. The first human to set foot on the lunar surface in more than 5 decades could do so sooner than you think. Last week, President Donald Trump signed a new executive order outlining an expedited timetable for NASA's plan to send humans back to the moon as part of its ongoing Artemis program. Next year, Artemis 2 will see its first astronauts venture around the moon and back again, while the first manned landing on the moon since the Apollo era could now happen as early as 2028. I still don't get this. I understand the argument and the logic. We landed the moon in the 70s. So the problem that I have with this is why do we have to wait till 2028 to land? Now, the issue that people are going to argue is this. Because in the 70s, the technology that was used, we're no longer using really that technology. We have expanded so far that technology is so outdated. And also, don't forget that the rockets that were used, they really stopped putting all money in those Apollo era rockets and started investing all the money into the space shuttle. And of course, now the space shuttle, when it had its issues, then they went, into private vector. So the logic, I get it. I do understand the logic why, but it's interesting that now all of a sudden the moon is an issue. But it hasn't been an issue for 50 years. So why now is it an issue? Well, look, here's the deal. And this is the truth. And I'm not here to be political. But when countries start arguing and vying for the moon after we've already been there, then you better believe that it's based for military reasons. We don't need to go up to the moon to get more moon rocks. We have plenty of them. And although that's pretty neat to have them, but just like Antarctica, if you think Antarctica is not being utilized for military, you are sadly mistaken. There's a reason why countries are spending billions of dollars in a land that is incredibly inhospitable. There's nothing there except for ice, snow, cold. It's a very dangerous landscape. But there is a reason. And so when you see countries starting to vie and starting to fight for spots, then you can better believe this is military. I assure you that what's happening on the moon is there wants to be a military base. Without question. If you can place a nuclear weapon on the moon, you are at a massive advantage over every single country, every country. You know, it's one thing trying to take out a nuclear weapon when it's in orbit. It's a completely different ball game altogether when you're trying to take out a moon in space. That's or a nuclear weapon, and that's a different world. Yeah, they claim there's oil, but I just think there's something going on. It's military based. There's oil everywhere. I mean, we have oil everywhere. We're sinking billions of dollars into research, as they call it. And I am not a conspiracy theorist person at all. I don't think this is conspiracy theorists. I think there's something that we don't know that's in Antarctica. And I absolutely am convinced that the moon is going to be used as a military base. That's going to be the next race, getting a moon base set up without question. For what reasons? I don't think it's to get moon rocks. So, yeah, it's one of those things. You just never know. Never know. Maybe one day we'll have to do a show on that. Who knows? But for those of you listening to this on podcasts, I'm going to wrap you guys up and say goodnight. Yeah, don't forget, everybody, we have tonight, we have night prayer coming up at the top, well, at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. TikTok, I'll stay with you guys in just a second. I'm going to say goodnight to my friends on the other social media platforms. And remember, I tell you all the time, your value does not decrease based on someone's inability or refusal to see your worth. You're priceless. And don't let anybody tell you or convince you otherwise. Good night.